she would be put in parts, mother parts, or she was supposed to. Yes, she wanted to try out everything. She wanted to be a beautiful, the beautiful heroine. And which all actors say, you know, actually they're pretty sore when they find they're going to play the part of somebody else's mother.
Yeah.
But I remember in Awakened Thing, she would wear her gray wig. She was smothered, and she'd wear a gray wig just a little bit off so people would see that it was that. And then she'd start once in a while saying, "So you're not happy? So you don't like it work?" And then she'd sort of look at the audience. It's just Stella, really, you know. I'm not really an old lady. But she's been very successful with her classes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Well, all these, I don't know, childlike qualities of actors.
Yes. Well, yes,
it's part of what makes them an actor somehow.
Yes, I think so too. But let's play house.
Exactly. Exactly. And well, did you know Stella very well?
Well, yeah, she was the leading lady in my play, and so I just knew her that way. But we were all very chummy, and the writers that year lived in a house at Dover Furnace. I'd go up for 2 days at a time of rehearsals and rewrites, maybe, or something, watching one of the writers around, and there was Clifford was an actor then, Clifford Odets, but he was in the writer's house, and Philip Barber. I don't know what became of him. Is he still?
I haven't run across him. I think he must be dead. But didn't he go out and work in the movies finally?
I don't know. I believe so. Yes.
I think he was a
very industrious writer, and I don't think I ever saw any of his plays. But he was in the house, and then sometimes Maxwell Anderson was there, and
I know Jack Lawson was over there sometime that summer.
Yes, he was there with Success Story. They were working on Success Story that year, I believe. Francho Tone was first in my play, and then he succumbed to Hollywood that year. But he was going to be the lead in that, and I think it would have made a great difference. He was a wonderful looking young man and a charming guy, very intelligent, and very helpful to them too, because he was more aware of the world than most of them were. They were if they were like Harold and some of the others, they were earnest, hard-working student types that studied the drama and studied great deal, or else they were debutantes who sort of wanted the stage but didn't know what you did when you got on it. We were at, this was at Dover Furnace, which is up near Wingdale, and nearby was a state mental hospital, and some of the patients would be called over, went around the community washing windows and doing handy jobs. But everybody got mixed up. Which were the people from the group theater and which were the people from the hospital? They all talked the same. I remember the...
you mean very passionately and fervently?
Yes. And you could always engage them and talk about their parts, because and nobody was quite sure which was which. Then in the kitchen there at the Dover Furnace headquarters, of an old farmhouse, were two, I think, a couple of Russian guys, and they were studying Vakhtanov and Stanislavski too, and they were dishwashers, and it was quite a thing. Helen Deutsch was publicity agent for them then. Did you see her?
Nope, I was supposed to
She's
call
out
her.
there, isn't she? Isn't she out in the West? Isn't she? I know that she's tremendously successful in
Well, I talked to her
pictures.
last week.
Oh, yeah?
She lives here in New York.
She does now?
And I was supposed to call her today, and she's been out yesterday and today, so we haven't gotten back together. But she lives up on Park Avenue, I think.
She was tremendously successful. She was did publicity for Gilbert Miller then, and then did for the group 3, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Did a lot for them, too. She and I used to have a lot of fun.
What do you mean by that? You mean...
Well, anyway, all of the things going on there were so. Well, it was an odd life. It was like a cult, any kind of cult. Cheryl was a very practical person, and a very down to earth. Harold was a student, and Lee was sort of the dreamer type. And Paula had nothing to do with anything. In fact, they had, she was considered almost a moron. You heard all this, I suppose.
No.
It's incredible that she should be part of this hospital, because she'd come up, and Lee was embarrassed about it, and she'd follow it about 20 paces behind him. He didn't want her. He pretended he didn't know her. And but she had been a chorus girl. Then just and he would hardly ever address a word to her. She'd just stand behind following, and then once in a while they'd put her in a play, but they didn't know how to get her on and off the stage. They had to put marks down for her, like for old blind Mrs. Fisk or something, and because once she'd get on, she'd say, where do I go now? And she couldn't act, she couldn't do anything. But they sort of thought, well, for Lee's sake, he was embarrassed that he was caught in a sex thing. And so they knew that it would please him. They helped him out with it. So there she'd have a walk on, but they couldn't walk her off. But I don't know, finally she caught on, I guess. Then finally she had a baby. They became experts. She was very queer, but I remember what they did then.
Tell me about your play. As I wrote
Yes.
through, I haven't been able to read it. I think I found some copies.
Well, there are millions of different copies, all changed, and they changed all the time, and they, my husband was in advertising, and then they were just advertising was this was in the late 20s, and actually I wrote out of revenge because he got fired. And I wrote it in 10 days, and the day I finished, I took it around to several people, and everybody called up about it. The George Cohan office and William Harris office, all of them. I thought they were all friends kidding, and I'd say, and everybody. So I was, and I couldn't believe it. But I had written it so, and I thought it was a light comedy. But evidently they thought it was an attack on our manners, on the American way.
Was this your first play?
I had written plays in college. I'd written a play that the new playwrights were going to do. And before they spent it all on themselves and gave up. And that was announced too, but that was never done. And then, so this was the first one after that. And it was the contact man who lives, who gets paid only by the commission on getting the account. And he's about to get canned because he has nothing good. He's married a model in a dress house. That was Stella. And she's a looker and is a big help in his business because the accounts naturally liked a handsome girl, and she had all the clothes from her model jobs. And I don't know, she didn't work at him anymore. She was married to him. He was taking her away from all that. He couldn't stand how these fellows paw her. And then so if you marry her, then an account comes up that will save his life if he can get this account, a big dress business from the West. And this man is coming to town, and he finds out that it's Jonesy, and that he is looking for a girl at a model house, and the girl is the girl he used to try to date. That was this guy's wife. Well, and he says, oh, this is great, this is all made. We'll have him out the house. He's still crazy about you. After 2 years, he's still looking for you, and this is great. And he, so he told his wife, she said, you mean that you want me to see that old bastard? I wouldn't. I had to fight all the time with him. Why, what kind of a husband are you that you want me to even see him again? Well, look, it saves our lives. We get the account. He's looking for it and everything. And he has an argument with her. And she said, you told me you wanted to take me out of all this. And here you are trying again. And finally he persuades her that their whole existence depends on this. It's have all depression and so on. And he'll have a party for this guy. And he said, I told him you were crazy to see him. And so they have a fight right then. And he told him after I threw him out a million times, and how dare you? And then finally she comes desperate, and what are they going to do for a party? How are they going to get things? And so he said, well, I'll get him to the party. And then he said, and then there's this neighbor, this fellow I used to know, who's a nightclub singer now, and I'll get him to. I just ran into him on the street, and I'll tell him there's a big chance here for him, and big shots are coming, and I'll get him to come, and I'll tell Jonesy about this, and then we'll have another couple from the advertising company, in a couple of copywriter and his wife, and so we'll have a nice little group here, and well, the wife is still upset. She can't stand this, the idea of seeing this guy again. And then while they're getting ready for the party, a girl, a little cutie from upstairs comes in and wants to know if anybody has a Spanish shawl. She's going to a masquerade party, and she has no clothes to wear. So Ed, the husband, keeps trying to oblige her, and that makes the wife jealous and mad too. Why should you? And she plays up to Ed, and so that makes the wife mad too. But yes, don't you remember I gave it to you for Christmas, a Spanish shawl? Don't you remember? You want me to give her a present? So anyway, there's difficulties there. Then the Jonesy arrives. But the thing that the group was doing was this. So Joe Bromberg, a wonderful actor, was to be Jonesy. Well, Jonesy was a big, lumbering, good-natured, hearty Chicago type. Well, Harold and the group decided that Joe Bromberg didn't feel comfortable being a Chicago type. It didn't make him happy. He was not happy that way. That he wanted to be a real Jewish type. And that, well, I didn't know anything about Jewish dress business. I mean, it was not completely Jewish then. It was all different kinds. And I didn't know anything about Jewish expressions or speech or anything. Well, anyway, but just changed his name to Schwartzy. instead of Jones did. Well, that was the first thing. And so then,
Who was playing the husband? Franco?
no, Franco had gone to Hollywood by that time, and so they tried 2 or 3 people. And they were so dumb that way because they wanted Russell Collins, who was a very ugly little man. And, you know, they had to be good-looking in advertising, especially these contact. Well, finally, the only good-looking guy they had was Louis Leverett, I think his name was. Not a very good actor, but he was, at least he looked good, conventional, you know. He was a good-looking young fellow. So there was Schwartzy, being extremely Jewish, and so they had him do adjustments where he loved the feel of silk and textures in an old European way, you know. And but I got fascinated by all these things.
Not a nice piece of good.
Yes, I mean, it was that. It turned into that. And here was me, Ohio, with Ohio salesmen, backslapper types that I knew very well, and so. But I was fascinated. I mean, I wasn't disturbed at all. I was just absolutely wondered how they could do all these things. And well, Schwartzy was ordinary Yiddish or Papa, and so then they had the party at the house, and everything goes to pot. The girl comes in from the masquerade, just in Spanish shawl, nothing else, because it turned out to be the wrong night. So she horns in on the party and sits on everybody's lap and drives the wife further and further crazy. Mm-hmm. And then the singer tries to sing and nobody will listen to him. They keep interrupting, and the other guy from the office wants to horn in and pretend it's his account and tell about his experiences in the army, and nobody will let him tell that. And then and Clifford Odets was the doorman, and and Stella had to. But one of the things that they would do was that the director either Cheryl directed it up to the end, and then they thought it was going to pot, so Harold came in and finished up.
How close to opening?
8 months. It took them 8 months working on this to really make something very strange indeed out of it, and it was really fearsome. I mean, they made it a very terrifying. Well, anyway, they said to Stella, she said, "Oh, gee, I don't know, I feel it's awfully good today." And they say, "But you really don't feel good, you know. You feel, you must, you say, I feel good," and then suddenly start crying. And then, or else you say, I feel very sad, and then do a little tap dance, you know. So they gave these complicated, neurotic, mad things that she was. So anyway, I was fascinated by all this too, and then but by this time, then the party goes to pot, and everybody gets plastered on the speakeasy stuff. And the third act opens with Ed. They only have a one-room apartment, and Ed and Joe Schwartzy are in bed together on a fold-up bed, and Jonesy is up, and Ed or one or the other is upset about the foot sticking out. That he thinks is a very repulsive spectacle, the human foot. So they have a scene about this terrible foot business. And
the business of the foot.
So anyway, he keeps saying, "What? That isn't human to have a foot like that." So they have a kind of an argument about whose foot it is. They aren't quite sure which out of the covers and sticks. It's a very funny scene, as I recall. Well, then I don't know, and Stella appears again, and then and the girl from upstairs is still hanging around too. And
Does this party scene involve a lot of people, or just
about 8 or 9 people, and one set, and what they had in those days was a dropped living room, a little balcony, you know, where people would come in and a few steps, and one guy Gorelick did the sets. In fact, the sets were so complicated, I believe that they cost so much that nobody could ever do it in the summer stock or anything. But something like that. But it ends with Myra giving up the whole thing and walks out. Oh, she has a little dog too. And it ends with Jonesy. Anyway, she gives up and he can't understand it. After all, he's trying to help her. It's as much for her, isn't it? And their life together. Then she stalks out the big Nora way, and then the little girl from upstairs, still in her masquerade Spanish shawl, is all ready to move in, and she holds up the dog and takes it to the window and says, "Say bye-bye to Mama." To the dog. That was the end of it. Well, to my astonishment, there was such indignation. I thought a lot of it was very funny still, but everybody took it as part of the thing of not knowing that you're not conforming, you know. But the point of view I had was utterly so completely un-American. She should have helped her husband by being nice to the boss. That was the beginning of that kind of thing, where everybody, all wives are supposed to be nice to the boss so that the guy gets ahead.
Oil for the lamps.
Yes, yes. And so people were standing in the aisles, and a woman was crying, and she said, "I can't stand, who is this Dawn Powell that she makes Stella Adler be such a terrible woman to her husband, and how can, and this is so anti-Semitic, having Schwartzy such an awful man, but I hadn't anti-Semitized it, the Semites had, and so they carried on about how it was anti-Semitic, and well, anyway, I went back to my house, and everybody was indignant. It was instead of saying what I thought they'd say was a rather weak, light comedy, rather feeble, which I would have said.
Yeah, with satire toward advertising.
Yes.
As a profession.
They thought it was an insult to the American way, and that's when I realized I didn't know what the American way was myself. And when I got home, Francis Farrago and Jack Lawson and a lot of other people came in, and my husband, and they said, "The papers haven't come yet, the papers haven't come yet." I went to bed. It was all over, and I was glad of it. And finally I said, "What's the matter? It's 4 o'clock. The paper's always out by this time." And they said, and then my husband said, "My dear, I don't want you to see them." Well, I thought they'd say, you know, they're just a free. I said, "I know that they weren't good, because I could tell from the audience." And I saw people shaking their heads, saying, "Oh, this is brutal. Oh, this feeble little thing, you know."
Yeah, sure.
So, and then I saw these reviews. Well, I was delighted with them. They said, "This is so powerful. Miss Powell doesn't know what a strength she has, and she's this powerful attack on advertising is too strong for the theater. Her touch is too powerful, and my goodness, if I can pink that old elephant hide, I've got it." And so I was encouraged all by that. So that very day I started a new play, but I knew better by this time. I'd already had the plan for it. And
well, before we leave this, do you think the actors had in some way converted the thing into...
Yes, into a meaningfulness. Everything was meaningful.
I mean, was it really meaningful?
I don't think so, but I really, at this date, I can't tell. I don't think it was.
It had a portentous tone to it.
They made it portentous, but it could have been played lightly, and probably would have been a flop just the same. Just a flop as a light little thing, you know. But
they were never really able at any time to play anything light.
no.
And they never really did what you might call a witty play.
No, they didn't know how to handle wit. They thought it was, they said wit is a very good thing. Sometimes wit is a good thing to have. And they were rather, well, I don't know whether, it was very interesting. I had really, I wasn't impressed with what they did with actors because good actors always feel the part anyway. And they were so, usually very stupid people, were very pretentious about getting into it and pacing up and down and you know, then I remember Stella, they were all studying Bactano, and then which one was still alive, Stanislavski or?
Stanislavski was still alive at that time.
And then I remember when Stella was in Paris some years later, and she met him, and I don't know whether she remembers this or not, but and discussed everything with him, and he said, "You've done everything wrong." Now this is what I said at all about their whole method. He said, "Oh no, you misunderstood my method completely." Well, by that time it was well underway.
Had the play gone along pretty far in rehearsal while you were still at the Dover Furnace?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they were up there all during the summer, so it had gone about several months, but it really went 8 months in rehearsal and lasted 3 days or 4 days. I forgot.
They continued working on it all that fall then.
They worked on that, and then they worked on Success Story. And I've forgotten. Did they do Success Story first?
Yes, they opened Success Story the end of September that fall.
I know the Lawsons had a house next to ours out at the shore.
Yeah, they were living in Mauritius then.
No, not that year. I don't know. Later on, they moved to Mauritius, but when it was first taken by the group for its...
They were living somewhere out on the island.
Yeah, Port Jefferson.
In Port Jefferson, that's right.
And we had a place right next. So Jack and I would come out from our workout with the group, and at that time he was making fun of comrades, the comrades, and the communist touches. Everybody was being communist in there too, pretty red outfit, and he was very jolly about that. And I haven't caught him laughing about it since then.
No.
Did you see him?
Yes, he's living out in Los Angeles.
I know he
now,
is.
you know. I spent...
Well, we stopped our friendship because I'm such a fascist, as you know. Though he can't stand anybody who isn't communist anymore. I see his sister from time to time. That was too bad. He was so good. Processional was such a wonderful play, and Success Story, I think they loused that one up. But still, it did fairly well. But I think that...
How do you say, why, in what way was that loused up?
Well, in the first place, again, it was their not knowing what types people were, and having Stella and Luther be lovers, and being, but they were such wrong types. I mean, they were adlers and used to certain kind of parts. And I don't know, it seemed to me...
they weren't clerks.
What?
They weren't clerks.
No. But it got... it did pretty well, didn't it?
Not really well.
Yeah. But part of that whole business made him a violent red. Like so many people changed because they weren't top in what they were doing. So it was a fault of society. Actually, I thought he had done very well before I knew him. He was very famous. I mean, processional. Roger Blumer loudspeaker I was crazy about. Most of it would come under pop art now.
Yes, he had that quality
Yes. In loudspeaker, it was so funny. Leonard Sillman was the butler in it, and they had this roller coaster set, and the governor's wife was halfway up in a ticket booth, and with a mud pack on her face, and Leonard Sillman, the butler, made his entrance down the chute on roller skates and skated around, and then there was a girl in a bathing suit, Miss Newlots, pranced around. He was very good, but he disowned all of those things until he got the marching song, which was sheer polemics. Well, they had done, let's see, the Belt, I believe, or the Siftons, hadn't they?
The new playwrights did the Bell.
Oh, that's right.
So they had done
I thought,
a play called 1931.
Oh, yes.
The Simpsons did. The previous winter.
Well, then I broke them up. I sent them into the woods with big night, and I think they were dismantled for a year or two, weren't they?
Well, they didn't do anything then for
they scattered.
for about a whole spring.
And everybody was broke. They finally got some house on Washington Square where everybody would bring in about 5 cents, and they'd have a loaf of bread and a little bit of something.
Something like
Everybody had tried it. If somebody had a job, they'd feed everybody. They were absolutely loyal, dedicated little outfit. And Harold from time to time slit his wrist over Stella. And
You mean literally?
yeah, love, l'amour.
I mean suicide?
Well, just a lesson to her, sort of.
For God's sake.
I think she was crazy about Nathaniel West, a brief spell. And
In this period?
just a little while afterwards, in the 30s. Then and Cheryl was took more and more of just the financial treasury aspect, and Lee just sort of kept in the background as sort of a teacher. They're getting up in their parts and so on. Then I didn't see much of them. But then the Guild took the next play I wrote the very day I finished it and put it on with no changes. And then I wrote some more plays that always had options until I got so tired of options. You can't do anything else because I wanted to write novels too. But with somebody calling up all the time, somebody's office boy who's decided he's a producer, and you have to see them all just in case it might be Jed Harris again.
Yeah.
So I had to stop myself. I enjoyed writing dialogue, and it got really more praise and more kudos from it. Well, you'd get more out of just a little bit of playwriting than you do out of a lifetime of any other kind of writing, I think, don't you?
Well, you mean in money?
Well, in attention and in...
yes, because there's, the whole
yes, it's a show.
publicity apparatus starts grinding.
Yes.
And publishers just don't do that very much, do they?
And people don't read the way they could. Well,
I get it that the publishers where I've got this book coming out think it's a little undignified, really, to do all that Broadway kind of hoopla.
yes. You have Random House?
Viking.
Right. Oh, I just left them. Somebody's always leaving somebody that somebody else is just going to happily.
Were you with them for a long time?
No, I was just with them for my last book. I got very mad at them. They're very mean about money. They're the meanest about money. Those old, fine old firms are the worst about money of anybody.
Yeah, they don't let loose of it very easily at all, I find.
No, they will gladly spend $50 for lunch for you to make you unconscious, and at the time explaining why they cannot give you $25 more on your advance.
Yes.
And that always drives me crazy.
Yes.
No, but I'm at Random House for my next book, but I haven't finished it anyway, so I don't know where I am until I finish it.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I have more money from them without showing them anything than I had from Viking. I don't know. Viking has a very good reputation on that stuff.
I guess they do.
I guess they do. It really doesn't matter, I've decided. And it used to be you're supposed to be loyal to your firm. But then you're loyal to them, and the person you're loyal to has quit and gone to another firm anyway. So that tradition is gone completely nowadays. You might as well hop for every $5 more you get any place.
Oh, sure. Well, I must say that the woman who helped me did the editing on this was very helpful.
Who was that?
A woman named Helen Taylor.
Oh, yes.
Do you know her?
That's why I just want to...
Did she work with you?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
She changes everything. I think she probably is good on factual and journalistic and stuff that needs...
yeah, it was an analytic kind of job that she did for me.
I've heard that she's still very good at that.
And it's a journalistic kind of
I liked her very much. She's a very nice...
Yeah, she's a very nice woman.
Girl. She married another editor there, didn't she?
One named Lindley.
Uh-huh. But she was very... My kind of writing, she was very disturbing to her. She said, well, you can't have somebody starting to say something and then they haven't finished their sentence while they talk about something else and jumping around. Well, that was the way I wrote. But anyway, so at first I believed her. I was in a weak state where I believed what anybody said. Finally, I had to just go over everything, undo everything she suggested before I let it come out. But it was a great waste of energy. Editors can be a big pain. But it depends on what an author expects.
Well, in this case, she was helpful, but she didn't know anything about the subject.
So she had to look it up. Huh?
Well, so I was able to use her to some degree to
research.
Get a ordinary public reaction.
Oh, that was good. Oh, that was good. Yeah.
And it was something I was so familiar with that I wasn't quite sure how far I would have to simplify and clarify things. But she was helpful. So.
Would you like a whiskey drink? Any chance?
No.
No.
I'll join you.
No, I don't think so. It's too hot, I think. Too early and too hot.
Do you think that Cheryl's work on your play justified their taking her off of it? That is, would you
I think she got off of it herself. It was just about 3 or 4 days before, so I think maybe she was worn out, and they felt that. I think they just felt that they agreed. They agreed all the time. Then they were very happy to agree with each other. But I wouldn't have known. I mean, it all was the same to me because they seemed to me to have
They had a tendency with certain plays to do what we've already talked about, which is to read into them a kind of significance.
Always, yes.
Which may have been there, in a little bit.
It would have been better to let it seep through.
Yes.
And let people find out something without knowing they were learning.
Yeah.
which is the only way you can do it, I think, is to, instead of shaking your fist.
Well, otherwise, on the stage, it becomes...
Uh-huh.
Well, you never get beyond the first act.
No.
You said it, and
Yeah.
there isn't any other place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Was it that they had some... Did they ever... Do you remember they're discussing this question of what they took the play to mean with you?
Oh, they talk that. Yeah, they talk that all the time. And I am not anybody who wants to. I mean, I want to do it and write it, and then let an audience find itself in it.
Yeah.
And I loathe discussion groups, and I don't want actors prowling around my subconscious,
Yeah.
undressed,
Yeah.
and because it's better to have it seep out. That's theater is a little mystery and a little but there was too much, and I imagine most of them still have that, too much academic rut and rot, you know. They really, I think, would have liked to have a footnote to everything everybody said right on the stage. At that time, in those days, people wore these funny clothes that I think they brought something to the theater, but took away magic that had been there in many cases. So they had to have that magic underlined and pointed at, and I think that they lost a good deal.
What can you remember productions that had this magic that you're talking about? Just performers.
Well, in the early days, Captain Cornell, for instance. I mean, you mean about the group?
No, I'm just wondering by comparison.
No, but I can't think of any. They did well with Irwin Shaw, I think. Gentle People, I thought was good. But that was tone again, French tone. And you know, a lot of good, naturally good actors can stand having the method of, just like a lot of beautiful women can stand some bad makeup. They still come out beautiful.
Yeah.
But he was naturally an intelligent, gentle kind of smooth actor. Not a great actor, but he was. He had intelligence. There weren't very many highly intelligent people there, I guess. Sandy, did you see Sandy?
Sandy Mize.
Yes. He still has his school.
He's up at the neighborhood playhouse.
Oh yes. He was a smart boy. I was asking him the other day, or when I saw him about a year or so ago, about some young actor that I knew who was studying with him, very proud of it. I said, how's he doing? He said, well, he's like a lot of like young men actors. They think the important thing is to show the good side of their profile.
Yeah.
That if they can accomplish that, if you can get them to, if you can tell them really and sincerely which is their best side, they think from there on they don't need any more help.
Well, did any of their actors, aside from Stella and Franco, particularly impress you?
Well, Joe Bromberg, he was really a good actor, a naturally good actor. He could have stood any kind of thing, you know. And I can't think of anybody. They were as good as a lot of people. And then I was just around one season, so, and I picked up a lot of more people. Tony somebody.
Tony Craver.
Yes. Did he stay with them long?
Yes, he was with them most.
He was good. Well, there were a lot of people in odd parts, so that you couldn't tell whether they were good or not, because I think they loved to make somebody who was not made for that part. They loved against typecasting. That was part of the showing they were actors.
Yes.
So half the time you couldn't tell whether they really were good or not allowed to be, because this was not their.
Did you find them particularly political that summer?
They were beginning to be. It was the beginning of little. Definitely bent that way. Yes, definitely. Reddish. And
How so?
well, they were, of course, they were crazy about the Russian situation, and they were.
You mean about the Russian theater?
The Russian theater, and also about Russian Revolution, the Russian everything. They were completely gone on Russia. Well, I was myself. Most all young people were. But I think that they had cells there. In fact, I think there were a lot of members of the Communist Party. And anxious to angle everything that way too. But it got more so after I left, after my gentle influence was gone. My Ohio Methodist Baptist Lutheran. They were very pleasant, romantic both. Like, I went out to Hollywood on a visit. I think they were doing a play of mine out there then. And Fox was, and most of the, no, it was after, it was after the group, after the Gilead had done the Jigsaw. And I was out there about, I guess it was 36. And Joe Bromberg said, "Come on, I'll take it this a little group hideout is," and I've forgotten who had this little group. They'd already set up little group outfits, all spotted all over the hills, and
this was in the 40s.
The 30s.
In the 30s. Yeah.
And and he was still abused by the groupishness. Most of the intelligent ones were really amused by even though they were in it. Yeah, amused. They're amused, but at the same time they were with it.
Yeah.
But when they, but anyway, we went to this house where they were having a group conclave, and he said, there was some vacant house that somebody had managed to get the money to rent, and they were having classes in there, continuing with the group method. And so we went and peeked at the door, and there were several people sitting around that I recognized. I was anxious to see all my old buddies, and they were sitting around, and then Bromberg and I began getting convulsions because who was the head of this class? I don't think it was Bobby Lewis then. It was and it wasn't Harold. It was one of the members, and he was saying, "No, it's after all, we agreed that we would have this dinner is a Thanksgiving dinner, and we're having turkey. So when you're making a face as if you had red wine, that's all, and it's white wine. Oh, now we can all know." So then, no, you still have a little red wine there, and that's it. You got it. That's the white wine now. You got it. And so there, and then we tiptoed around to another corner where there was another scene going on. Much the same thing. I forgot what that was. No, you've just told her you love her, but you aren't sure whether you really do or not. And you're thinking it over. So you said I love you as if it was true, but you aren't sure yourself in your own heart. You see. I don't know how they went to. Oh, terrific deal. How you got it? Oh.
This was in Hollywood.
Yeah, they were had little practice places around where they kept up their method. They just wanted to keep it up, even though they were looking for jobs out there.
I was wondering if you could figure out what year this was.
36, that would be. 36, let's see, would it be?
Or could it have been 37?
Could have been 37.
Because a bunch of them were out there in the spring of 37 working for Walter Wanger.
Yeah, that might be. But I don't think I think they were out there waiting for jobs then. I'm pretty sure this was October of 36. I'm almost positive because it was a fall, the spring my play had been done, and in the fall, that's right, I went out there for Goldwyn for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I know Bromberg was out there then.
Yes. So it was that winter, a desperate winter for most of them. I think they were all pretty focused. So Bromberg was doing all right. He was making good. He was amused by Hollywood and amused by the group too. He was really first rate as an actor. Yes.
Do you regret
Mm-mm.
I suppose it was an accident that brought you in touch with the group?
No, I know it's all part of a theatrical experience. I had been hanging around the new playwrights, and I found them very exciting. That was an exciting little outfit.
Yeah.
And they were, but they were more on the writers, as writers. I was more interested in that because they were.
Their productions were not as good as the usual Broadway productions.
But they didn't have the money, but they were very imaginative and exciting. I remember I was so enthusiastic and bemused by the project, the way you are, my new thing, and they. So, and I was at the same time involved in getting my first novel done, and I took the publisher down, respectable editor. They didn't take my book, I think that was the reason. And he took a group of people down there on my say-so. He wanted to be with it, too. He was new in New York. He wanted to cash something, So he went down to Cherry Lake Theater where they were operating and took a group. after it was to, I think it was to Jack Lawson's play International, which I thought was very exciting, even though, well, you know how the excitement of rehearsals and of amateurs and you get more thrill out of it's thrilling to see something growing, and by the time they got it on, usually it was all bitched up. But this editor and called me up the next day and he said, "Dawn, I will never forgive her for this. I took a very distinguished author of ours and her husband down there to this play you said was so wonderful, and it was the greatest thing that was on the stage, everything. And she had a miscarriage. She was so shocked that she had a miscarriage. So I told this to Jack Lawson, and he said, "Well, I think we should charge people for this then. Don't have an abortion, just come to see International. Save yourself a couple $100." But there was a great deal of jealousy there, of course, among those boys. 5 male writers vying with whose play was to go on next. And then the money running out on the production of one, so it just had petered out at the end. And
they were planning to do your...
They were planning to do my play and 5th, and 4 boys wanted it done, but it was a question of either mine or Dos Passos's Airways. And the other 4 wanted them to do mine because they'd had theirs.
Yeah.
So they didn't care whether Dos got his done or not. And I was very fond of Dos, and I thought it was unfair since he was one of the playwrights. So I said I wanted to wait until after Dos Passos was right, because for mine to be done. So his was done. And all of the infuriated Alexander Wilka, all the reviewers were absolutely furious with all these plays. And the boys were furious with each other. And Otto Kahn and Horace Liveride would appear opening nights, both of them in opera capes. It was a grand night when the sponsors appeared. But Otto Kahn had given $25,000 for this outfit. And when you think that they did 5 plays on $25,000, and Francio was in all of those, and most of those went into the group theater.
Yes. Well, how did your play then get to the theater yet?
Then, well, I took it around to several people at once when I had the script. The big night was called The Party then. And so I took it around to several producers at once. And they had it, and they took an option on it right away, which did not, and they held it for 2 years, which is the most money I ever made on it, for that 2 years option money. But I think the group never paid their option. Maybe half of a teaspoonful of an option. I still am fond of all of them.
Well, did you offer it to the group, or?
The agent, I know, Harold Clerman had been a reader at the Guild, so he wanted it. So he asked for it, and Barrett Clark was the agent at the time. And the Guild was willing to release some of their holdings. I think they had others that the group wanted to work
with. They had owned Paul Green's play.
Yes. The House of Conley.
The House of Conley, and they turned that over to the group. I think that was the only other one. that you can look back so philosophically, even over, 30 years to
Oh, yes. Oh, we had a very good time. It was very pleasant. And
because I know some people who had a play that didn't go particularly well, even that long ago, found it a very traumatic thing.
yes, I know. And they still carry clippings and are still mad at the director or something. No, I think I think the play would have flopped if it had been done as I thought it, as a light comedy. I think it would have flopped even more so. This way it gave me a big. I saw, I saw that that I could do something. So this next play, which I'd already started as a kind of a really meaningful play, a selfish mother type, I immediately made it into a French farce. I wrote it in terms of oh, Papa, oh, here comes Adele, the French maid, and then doors opening and shutting all the time, and somebody in that room. Oh, so I modeled it completely on a French farce, and so no one ever suspected that I had intended any meaning at all, and I don't think there were. But it was a pleasant comedy, and could have done better. But the Gilead group was very successful, and everybody was going on a cruise through the maybe the English waterways, or maybe it was the fjords. But everybody in a body was going over to that summer, and they wanted to get everything out of the way. And that astonished me too. I never had to write a line. They didn't want me to rewrite anything. They wanted to just fulfill their part of their subscription thing, a sixth play for the subscribers, and get on that boat. And it was done in some summer things. But again, Mordecai Gorelick's sets, he made the sets so elaborate and so massive that they could never be taken any place. And when they were done any other way, and then Philip Miller had made everything dependent on various crooks and things. But even that one, which did come out a light, foolish little thing, just was some people found sharp satire. I could never find it. As a matter of fact, it's my defect. I never know what I think is realism. Somebody says it's a savage attack. And so.
Well, pardon me for being so dense on the chronology. Did the Guild have to release Big Night to the group?
No, they didn't have to. They probably knew they weren't going to do it, and we just maybe going to hang on another option another year or so. And they were very helpful to the group. They thought of the group as their little boy, and Tressa Hilbert was always around helping advise, and they considered it one of their
do you recall whether the 8 months of work that you were talking about on the play was more or less continuous? Did they work in the summer and then drop it and then pick it up again?
No, they did it all the time.
I see.
They had little sets doing things all the time. And was that the year Alexander Kirkland came in? No, he came in later, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yes, he came in the following summer.
I guess so. He was another person like a number of people who were sort of lost and thought they wanted to, well, like the people now go to those schools to sort of see if they've got something upstairs. And often they find out they haven't, but I don't think they know it. But they were, evidently got a lot out of it. The actors all seem to try with it. A man I've seen off and on, Art Smith. Did you ever hear of him?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've been trying to find him, and I can't. Do you know where he lives? He's sort of dropped out of sight at the moment.
Well, let's see. He used to be around some bars, and then, he's a funny man. I ran into him just a few years ago, and he was a little tiny fellow, and had an enormous wolfhound, and it was, my husband and I were staying in some hotel in Embassy Park, Irving, about 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. There was Art and this big dog, and an even bigger wife, and Dawn Powell, great to see you. Could you let me have $5? And nobody lived at that hotel unless they were pretty broke anyway.
Yeah.
But I raised it for him, and he said, we'll get it Monday. My wife got a job. He said, you're not borrowing money again, are you? And he said, honey, it's Saturday. Where are we going to get it? Then, but he was very funny. But then I moved away from there, and about a year or so later, he called one day and said, Dawn, I've been worried about you. I haven't seen you for a long time. How are things going? And I said, fine. Everything's fine. Finished book, so on. Doing some, whatever you say in those circumstances. And how are you? And he said, great. We've been having a wonderful time. That's great. Well, enough of this hard luck story. Can you loan me $5? I said, sure. He had a big, they had a one-room apartment with 2 cats and then this big dog. And they stayed in bed all the time, so they're always in, but he didn't have any top on his pajamas, and she just had a bra on. They're always reading the Journal American, and he had a big gallon of red wine, which he'd drink right out of. And then, do you want some of this here? We don't have any cups here. And then the wife's mother lived in the apartment. The wife's mother, Mrs. Topping. And the hotel clerk explained to me that the wife's mother was very rich, but gaga. And they'd park her in there so they could tap her from time to time. And she had an attendant, a colored maid, who was drunk all the time. And she'd come down and say, Art, let me hear some of that stuff for you. So he'd say, here you are, have a snort there, Hetty. And so it was a fine life. But I don't know. And then he, then he was doing, Uncle Vanya or something. And he said it was cheaper to be on unemployment, because he got the low scale, off Broadway. It was $55, but you get that for unemployment, don't you?
Something like that. It might be up to at least that. But
so he would be in these plays, but he must be around.
Do you think he's still at that same hotel?
No, I don't think so. No, they moved out. They moved to the Earl. But you might encase all of the small, dingy hotels around Madison Square. There are millions of them.
I know. Well, I'm staying over in that, sort of that area over by Gramercy Park.
Oh, are you, we stayed, we got out of our apartment, probably lived 20 years, and put stuff in storage. We're going in a hotel for just about 3 months. And I think the storage bill turned out to be about $3,000, and the furniture in it was worth about $2.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, was your husband in the theater?
No, but he had been a theater critic at Pittsburgh before I knew him. As a very young man, he'd been a drama critic on the Pittsburgh paper. I never lived there. And I met him when he got to New York to go into publicity and advertising. And, but he was a big expert on the theater. And he'd gone to the theater since he was a child by himself. And he had a stack of, and he wrote reviews.
Mm-hmm.
He'd steal money from his father's cash box, and he was an insurance manager or something, and then he'd go to the nearest town, Philadelphia, Hazleton, and go to whatever place. He saw every play that was on the road from about 1906 on, and wrote down carefully his opinion of it. So then when he was 19, he was prepared to be a drama critic. And I think he always regretted that he, like all advertising men, you know, I was happy when I was on a newspaper. So he was, he went to everything. He died about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, cancer. I still don't know what to do with all these valuable documents of a 12-year-old boy's impression of Clyde Fitch. Of course, he's crazy about all of them, so that I don't. They'd be valuable, especially the programs. So I've got to ask. Is Friedman still up at the public library? Is he still in charge?
He's ill right now, and it's not really in. A man named Myers is...
I could ask, because it seems to me that somebody needs those things, you know.
Well, have you really read these things lately?
No, I haven't read them lately, but anyway, they're all programs.
A child's view of the theater might actually make an interesting book sometimes.
You know.
Those sort of things could be put together.
Yes. For somebody who never has any ideas, would we give them something to work on? I might hire somebody to do it.
You know, it has that kind of historical interest sometimes of an unusual person's view of something.
Yes.
You can put together. Well, have I not asked you anything about your experience with the group that you think is significant?
No, I'm afraid I've said bad things about it, though, that's all. Would you cut all that out?
Well, I'm not looking for good things or bad things, but, you know, the facts of any...
Well, it made a lot of people very happy, like a religion. It made a lot of people, evidently they just, it saved a lot of people somehow. I mean, they seemed to find something in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I found more reading plays myself. I mean, I just I think that what they were doing seemed to me the natural thing for anybody to do without having it called the spine and the adjustment and all those like a sensible person doesn't need all those fancy words in psychoanalysis to straighten themselves out.
Yes.
You don't need to. So I think that most a real actor could find himself without being told to take an adjustment. And I doubt if it affected the genuine actors at all. although they liked to play it because, of course, it was play again. There was more playing around. See if my morning glories. They suddenly came out the other day. They came out as soon as my sister